Guild Wars 2 changed its expansion models a few years ago. And after 2 expansions being out for a while that followed this model, I want to recap a bit. So I want to give you a little bit of the summary, what happened, what we know, what changed and stuff, and then give you my take on it. Because I think there are positives to it, but there are also quite a lot of negatives. So let's start with the current state. So currently we know that every single year there will be one expansion in Guild Wars 2. This expansion will launch with some content. And after every 3 months, there will be more content added to the game in some major updates. These major updates are a little bit split. Sometimes they are more focusing on a new map, and the next one focuses a little bit more on instance content, for example, like we have that now with Chanceval's convergences, for example. And we know, for example, that there will be balance patches every 3 months. Of course, we also have the festivals that were always ongoing, but that's nothing new. So the current state is we get expansions that are smaller in size, but every single year, not as before every 2 years. However, I would say the size of those expansions, if you look at Soto, for example, is not half of the size than an old expansion with 2 years cycle, in my opinion at least. It's a little bit smaller. So before we get to the negatives here, that I already implied a bit, I want to go over the positives, because this expansion model actually has some positives. For example, we know that there is a schedule, and we exactly know what to expect. They already tell you at the launch of the expansion, this and that will happen at those roughly times. So this is really nice, because we then don't get a content drought which lasts for a year or even longer, which we had before some of the previous expansions. And this is definitely a good thing. However, not everyone is satisfied with that. What do I mean by that? So the schedule is every 3 months will be a major update and a balance patch somewhere in between. This is really nice for a lot of veterans that play a lot of content, a lot of different game modes. But if you're only in one of those camps, so if you only play open world PvE, then for example the latest Chanceval's update, major patch, was only including instance content like raids and convergences. That means if you are an open world player only, you didn't get anything new. There was also not a real balance change in that update, so that means you didn't get anything. It was just an empty update where you get to make the new spear, but it was the same content. Nothing new to get the spear. This is quite sad for people that are a little bit niche down, which I think are over 90% of the community are quite niche down to a single or at only 2 parts of the game. So I'm talking about PvE, open world, maybe some instance content, maybe world versus world, maybe PvP. But of course, the competitive modes are a little bit different anyway, because you don't get new content there, just more balance changes and that kind of stuff. But I would say when it comes to the negatives, this is one of the biggest negatives, that these updates that come are small by design and only hit a certain fraction of the game. And if you're not in that fraction, you don't get a lot anyway, or nothing at all. And I think that's a big negative. And we have a lot of other negatives as well, because I would say just getting overall less content feels like the game is a little bit in a maintenance mode. If you look how much stuff was added with Heart of Thorns and with, for example, Path of Fire, it was insane when you compared it to, for example, Chanceval's or Soto now. You get 2 maps and that's it, maybe a 3rd map after the patches, and then it's done. With Path of Fire, we did not only get the core maps of Path of Fire, the big ones where you get all the mounts and stuff, we did also get, after that, don't forget that, the Living World that was leading up, so to say, to the next chapter. So Living World Season 4, where you got 6 different new maps. Yes, I know at that time that was one of the best times when it comes to content releases, but still, if you don't get that amount of quality, you might still get somewhere close to it. And with Chanceval's and Soto, it's actually insane how much the difference is, how much content we get. There was also story in the Living World, Season 3 and 4. There was a lot of new maps. There was even raid wings were released almost with every patch at some point. That was insane. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And nowadays it feels like you have 3 months of waiting period for something that might not even affect you. And then you have another 3 months and maybe then it affects you, but might also not. So that is really crazy part about that. I think there are a lot of different aspects here as well. I think the expansion model, especially when it comes to the Wizards World and that kind of stuff, there were things that were added that are good. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Especially I like stuff that they go back to instance content like raids and that kind of stuff. I like that. But I'm talking here about how the expansion model in general, not a single one of those expansions or single features of the expansions are. I'm talking about the big expansion model, how I think affects the game and if it's a good thing. Because in my opinion, it leads to a really interesting dynamic of players coming when there's a new expansion, playing for, I don't know, maybe a week, maybe longer, depending on how casual you are. And then you leave because there's nothing new for you anymore. You go back to the old stuff. If you enjoy the game, if you don't know what to do, then you leave and you quit the game. And you might come back for a new patch, but you might not come back for a new patch. And then you have people just spiking when the expansion comes, and then people leave after a few weeks again, which is really sad because that leads to a really not a good environment to get new people on board, because a lot of veterans play the game on and off. And I think it's really important to have veterans in a game. And the new expansion model doesn't allow veterans to get nearly enough content, especially if you're a PvE player. So if you're a hardcore player that plays every single game mode, wants to enjoy the game for what it is, wants to improve it, have too much fun, have some big goals, yes, then you have a lot of stuff to do. But with the new expansion model, if you're just a casual that wants to enjoy the new content, then you don't have that much stuff to do. And that's a big problem, because a lot of people playing Guild Wars 2 are casuals and they just play the game for a bit. I also want to mention that this is a discussion regarding veterans. So if you're a new player and didn't play to all the expansions, you don't have to care about what I say here, because in the end you didn't even experience everything of the game yet. So you don't have to worry about that the game has less content for you in the future, because you are not at the point yet. You have so much content to go for. So you might enjoy the journey there way more than if you would say, oh, that's sad in the future then. Because yeah, might be sad in the future, but in the end, if you enjoy this journey, it's definitely worth it. I played so many hours in Guild Wars 2 that I would everyone recommend to try it out and give it a long-lasting journey. Other than that, I would say Guild Wars 2 has become more and more, even more than at launch already, some kind of sandbox game. So if you don't set your own goals, you will not get enough content to go afford, new content to enjoy. You have to set your own goals, going for more legendaries, playing different classes, getting to know the variety, because it's the spice of life after all. So this is really important, that you understand that Guild Wars 2 is a crazy good game with not that much content if you're playing long term. And I'm talking really long term here, because to get through all the content that's already in the game, you need hundreds, if not thousands of hours. So that's not the problem. I'm talking about if you really want to play it consistently every day for 2 or 3 hours, then you will get at some point to the point where you just get nothing new anymore. You have to spice it up by changing different builds, playing new content, making maybe yourself challenges, setting your goals that are really high, going for all the legendary arena skins or for full legendary wardrobe and that kind of stuff. That's what you should go for in the end, because then you will enjoy the game way more. And if you don't grind too much, just having fun playing the game, and this is the most important thing. So I think there is still a way to enjoy the new expansion model, but I totally get why people think it's a bad thing. So this is my verdict, that there is a big problem when it comes to how the new expansion model delivers and how big the quantity and quality of the content is, because in my opinion it's too low for what it's currently at. And that's why I think they are focusing on some kind of different project. If you want to know more about my speculation on this project, be sure to check out this video, and please let me know your take in the comments down below. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick discussion. If you did, why not leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for all my supporters on Twitch and Patreon. Thanks, Timo, and I hope to see you all in the next video.